know that even if no one else is watching, Allah is. So that's the essence of fasting. And so we say, brothers, sisters, that if you really want to get the true benefit of Ramadan, then your entire body has to fast. What do I mean by that? Well, that means that during Ramadan, your tongue should fast. What do you mean my tongue should fast? Well, your tongue should fasting. It literally means to abstain, to stay away from something. You're staying away from food, from drink, from marital relationships. So that's the literal meaning, to stay away. And so your tongue should fast from cursing, from lying, from spreading rumors, from yelling at people, screaming at people, from doing things that may not be pleasing to Allah. Your tongue should fast. If you really want to get the benefit of fasting, your tongue should fast. And Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, he told us in one of his famous statements that whoever doesn't leave the statements, the false statements, the lying, and the false statements by his tongue, the things that displease, whoever doesn't leave those while fasting, then really Allah doesn't need your food or drink. Allah doesn't need you to leave your food or drink. This is for who? This is for you at the end. And so our tongues should fast. Our hands should fast. What do you mean my hands should fast? What are you talking about? Well, my hands should fast from typing things that I shouldn't type, from texting things I shouldn't text, from using my phone to go on websites that I really shouldn't go on, from tax season is coming up. Some of us are filling out tax returns. My hands should fast from cheating in my tax returns, because yes, Uncle Sam may not catch it, may not catch it, but Allah sure will, and Allah knows what we're doing. My hands should fast from hitting other people, my children, my spouses, my people, whoever that I may know, people in the neighborhood, and so on. My hand should fast from, for example, throwing trash in the way of the people. My hand should fast in, the sign language that some people share while they're driving. You know what I'm talking about. My hand should fast from, being that angry driver on the road who honks at people, who's cutting through people. My hand should fast. Because I'm a Muslim, I should be aware these are not things that Allah is pleased with. My eyes should fast. What? Eyes should fast from what? Well, my eyes should fast from looking at things I shouldn't be looking at. For example, my eyes should fast from, again, visiting websites that have adult content that's not pleasing to Allah. My eyes should fast. My feet should fast from going to places where there might be things that are happening that Allah doesn't like. Instead, I should use my feet to come to places like this, to go to places where I can help people, use my hands, my feet, my eyes, my tongues, my ears, my intellect, my heart, all to please Him. That's the essence of fasting. When you are, and the idea is that during the month of Ramadan, you're doing all of these things and staying away from things that displease Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So ultimately this becomes a training for you that you carry throughout the year. And that's why our scholars, they say that one of the signs that shows that a person's fast is accepted, and Ramadan is accepted, is that they change after Ramadan. They're a better person. And that's the idea. You have more taqwa. You are more conscientious of Allah. You are more forgiven. The Prophet Muhammad told us that whoever fasts in the month of Ramadan while believing and anticipating the reward from Allah, then all of his sins are forgiven. And the one who prays in Ramadan, in the nights of Ramadan, again, with having that firm belief and conviction and anticipating the reward from Allah, his sins are forgiven. And so Ramadan is an opportunity for us to do as many good deeds as we can. One time the Prophet, he told us that Allah says that every good deed the son of Adam does, son of Adam gets a lot more reward than the good deed that he or she does. So, when you do one good deed, you're supposed to get one reward for it, but Allah gives you 10. And if you're sincere, He gives you 70, or even 700 or more. And so we're encouraged to do more and more of those good deeds in the month of Ramadan. By the way, the opposite, on the other hand, when we do a bad deed, then what happens? It gets recorded only in one bad deed. And not only that, if you planned to do a bad deed, and then you stop yourself, you actually get a good deed. And if you plan to do a good deed, but you didn't get to carry it out, you actually get the good deed. The mercy of Allah. He's so merciful. He's telling you, come and engage. Do good deeds. Be aware of Allah. He's there for you. And so we're encouraged to do more and more, as many good deeds as we possibly can, of course, during the month of Ramadan, but also importantly, after we continue. Now, I wanted to talk about in a few minutes just some of the main, if you want to call it, the technical aspects of Ramadan. Of course, we talked about this, the spiritual aspect, which is again the most important part of Ramadan. Now we'll talk just very briefly about the technical parts of Ramadan. And I'll finish with one statement from one of the scholars. So, number one, in starting the fast, the month of Ramadan, ended the month of Ramadan, the Prophet ﷺ, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, told us that you fast Ramadan by the sighting of the lunar moon. So you start Ramadan in one of two ways. Either you sighted the moon when the lunar month before Ramadan, which is the month we are in, Sha'ban, the one when that is over. When you sight the new moon, the Ramadan moon, then you start fasting. Or if you couldn't sight the moon, then the maximum number of days in Islamic lunar month is 30. So once the 30 days of this month are over, then the next day is automatically Ramadan. So that's the first thing. Second thing, who must fast? Among the Muslims, who must fast? So a person who is Muslim, who is an adult, that means children who are not of age don't have to fast. It has to be an adult. Somebody who is sane, somebody who is capable, meaning physically capable, meaning they're not ill. We're not talking about somebody who just finds it difficult. No, we're talking about somebody who is actually really ill, they can't fast and they don't have to fast. And somebody who is a resident, meaning you are in your home, you're not traveling. Who is it that cannot fast? As Muslim, person who cannot fast, who's not allowed to fast, is mainly women who are indisposed in that part of the month. So they just make up their fast later on. They cannot fast during that time. What about people who are sick? Somebody caught a really bad flu. The doctors have said they should really take a lot of fluids. They're very ill. They have a fever. Islam is a religion of ease and peace. I just recited the ayat, the signs that I just recited. In those ayat, Allah tells us that Allah wants ease from you. He does not want hardship. He does not want hardship. So Islam is a religion of ease. So if you are unwell, you caught a flu, whatever, or you caught something that you cannot fast, or for example, a woman who is pregnant, who is feeding nursing her baby, and it may not be safe for her, good for her to fast, it's okay for her not to fast. Also, somebody who is traveling. You have a trip that you're on the road, you don't have to fast. What you can do in those cases, you just make up those fasts later on. Once the Ramadan is over, let's say, for example, myself, I was traveling last year, and on my way back, the flight was just too long and it was going to be too difficult, and I didn't fast, so I just made that up on a later date. And also the same thing, if somebody's sick, they can just fast later on. Now, what about in cases where somebody's really old? They're very elderly, they are, they're really ill, and they don't think that they'll be able to even make up the fast. So then there is an ease for them that all they have to do is to feed a person per day of that they miss the fast. So if they're missing 30 days of fast, they feed one person per day, and there's an amount mentioned in our Islamic law that it's about 3 pounds worth of food that they give them per day of not fasting. Now, what are things that break your fast? What are things that break your fast? So number one, of course, eating, intentional. Drinking, intentional. So wait a minute. what if, you know, Ramadan started, I'm so used to the non-Ramadan days, you know, I woke up in the morning, I'm fasting, I forgot, I just went and drank a cup of water, and I realized, whoops, I was fasting, now what do I do? Well, Islam being a complete religion, the Prophet told us, and we know we are human beings, we're weak, we forget, right? So he told us exactly what happens in this situation. And he said, if one of you eats or drinks unintentionally, forgetting that they were fasting, and they eat or drink, then it's okay, let's continue your fast for the rest of the day. And you consider this food or drink as Allah has fed you, Allah has given you something to drink. But now, of course, this doesn't mean that you started eating your sandwich and you ate 3 bites and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm fasting, and you're like, I think I forgot when we finished the sandwich. I am going to work, you know. Again, you are aware, again, that conscientiousness of Allah, you are aware, you know that you're fasting now. Allah knows you're fasting, so, then you don't do that. Uh, Intentional vomiting, if somebody on purpose induces themselves to vomit, that breaks the fast. Uh, if a woman gets indisposed during the fasting day, they get their monthly cycle during the day, then that's, that should stop their fast, and they should just make up that day later on. Any intentional discharges that a person may have, for example, masturbation and so on, that breaks your fast. Of course, if somebody is intimate with their family, with their wife or husband during the day of Ramadan, then there is a penalty for it, that you have to fast for 60 days, continuous 60 days after. So that's a complete no-no. Now, what are some things that are good to do, that enhance your fast, that will give you more reward during fasting? So number one, that you should eat the pre-dawn meal. Again, see that Islam is beautiful. It actually gives you more reward for eating at that time. Sometimes we're like, I don't want to wake up at that time. It's too difficult. I'm just gonna, I'll just eat or drink before I go to sleep and whatever. So no, it's actually recommended. It's a good thing that you wake up and that you delay that pre-dawn meal as close as possible to the time of dawn. That you keep eating all the way until the end. And of course, what you eat is up to you. I mean, you can literally have a sip of water, eat some dates, or eat your whatever you would like to eat at that time. But it's recommended. You actually get rewarded for eating that pre-dawn meal. Also, it is recommended, it's a good thing that you break your fast early. So you don't say, well, it's time for sunset, I'm just going to delay by 5 extra minutes to get more reward. No, there's no more reward just to not eat at that time. No, you eat at that time. There's actually more reward for you to take the easy route and break the fast when it's time to break the fast. You actually get more rewarded to do so at that time. It is also recommended that when you break your fast with some fresh dates. If you can't find fresh dates, you can, drink some water, and if you can't find, then, anything. It's also recommended to pray to Allah a lot. Ask Him for what you need, whether it is things of this world, because the Prophet Muhammad told us, may peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, that for the fasting person, their supplications, meaning when they ask Allah for something, they're not rejected. And especially at the time of breaking your fast. So you are going through a difficult time at your home, you're going through a hard time at your work, you're finding difficult with your studies, you're finding difficulty with your bills, you're finding difficulty with your children, whatever challenges you're going through, as little as they may be, you ask Allah a lot during the month of Ramadan, especially while you are fasting. Of course, we talked about it, to stay away from things that may displease Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet, he told us actually a situation that when one of you fasts, you should not engage in any uncivil or inappropriate conversations, yelling, screaming, cursing, and so on and so forth. And he actually said, if somebody does that to you, if somebody's cussing you out, if somebody's saying mean things to you, if somebody's saying that you just hold back, and he told us, you say, I'm fasting. I'm fasting. And that's it. That means I'm fasting, of course, not only in the physical sense, but I'm fasting from the spiritual sense. I'm fasting that my body parts are fasting. I'm not going to respond back. I'm going to do what Allah has told me in the Quran, that look, when somebody does something evil to you, repel it with something good. Repel it with something good, Because when you do that, even the worst of your enemies will become the closest of your friends. So you repel it with something good. It is also a good thing or recommended, a great reward, and again, this shows the mercy of Allah, that you feed the fasting people. Of course, not while they're fasting, but to break their fast, right? So it is among the Muslims, it is a very honorable thing for people that people compete and they want to do it where they want to sponsor people's meals at the time of breaking the fast. So, for example, here also in this masjid and other masjids, when they have the breaking of the fast gathering where people just come together. Of course, people don't have to gather; everybody can eat in their homes. But people gather here. People want to sponsor those, and that's because the Prophet Muhammad he told us that whoever feeds a fasting person, helps them break their fast, that person gets the reward of the fasting person without that fasting person's reward being diminished in any way. And that's the mercy of Allah. So you are fasting. I provided you with the meal at the time of breaking the fast. You get your reward of fasting. I get your reward of fasting too. It's not like you get any less. You get your reward, I get your reward too. So now imagine if you are, you come one night and you sponsor the iftar meal for one night or 2 nights for everybody in the masjid, and 200 people broke their fast with what you sponsored. Well, guess what? They got their reward of fasting, but you got all the 200 people's reward of fasting as well. And that's why, you see, and this is such a beautiful thing. In the Muslims, among the Muslims, people actually they compete with each other for these type of things. Just a few weeks ago, I was visiting, the holy mosques in Mecca and Medina, and it is a recommendation that a person should fast on Mondays and Thursdays during the year, right? So I was there on a Thursday. I was there and I was traveling. I wasn't fasting. It's not required. So on Thursday, right before the time of sunset, there were these areas that there were people who had rolled up because it's so common. There's hundreds of people are fasting on Mondays and Thursdays. But the interesting thing was that they had these places where they were putting out food, and people were inviting. It was almost like they're grabbing. No, come to my table, come to my thing and eat on my thing, and they're like grabbing. And so you see, the scene is not like, let me grab more food. No. You come and eat on my plate. Oh, you. And it's like a competition where everybody's trying to feed each other because they want to get their reward. Can you look at the paradigm shift? Look at the paradigm shift that now you are competing for what? To give people. Can you imagine? You are competing with each other to feed people. Of course, they don't fight each other, but they're, it's like I'm looking out for people who is grab that person, come to me, and a person is like walking around, be like, I'm getting like 3 invites at the same time. So we're encouraged to feed each other during the month of Ramadan, and of course, in general, to do a lot of good deeds, as many good deeds as we can. So, for example, give charity, as a charity, and it doesn't matter if you give little or more, as long as you give it sincerely, that's what matters. If you have more, you're able to give more, give more. And, reading Quran as much as possible. We try to recite as much Quran as possible. Praying at night. During the month of Ramadan, we have a special additional prayer at night, which is about an hour and a half or so after we break our fast. So there's a prayer that we are encouraged to pray at that time. The Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, he would pray a lot at night, especially in the last 10 nights of Ramadan. Why? Because during the last 10 nights, there is one night that is a super special night, which is called the Night of Power, Allah have decreed, Laylatul Qadr. That's the night on which the Quran was revealed. And so the reward of worshipping Allah in that night is equivalent to the worshipping Allah for 1,000 months, which is about 83 years, pretty much a lifetime. So imagine if you are if you try to be awake every night in the last 10 nights, as much as possible, as much as you can, and worship Allah during those nights, and you hit Laylatul Qadr, the night of power, you're getting the reward of worshiping Allah for 83 years. Mercy. Mercy of Allah. So many opportunities that He gives, and so that's when I'll finish with this and open the floor for any questions. There was one of the pious predecessors. He said, let me see here. He said that Allah has made Ramadan a race course. He called it an actual race course. مضمارا لخلقه. He made it a race course for His creation. And he said, his creation, they race with each other. They compete with each other to do good deeds, to obey Him. And then he said that, the people who are faster, who do more good deeds, they are the winners. And those who don't, they don't win. So it's up to us then at the end as to how much we do, what we do. It is a golden opportunity for us to come closer to Allah, and ultimately, like we said at the beginning, to attain that sense of taqwa, being conscientious of our duty to Allah, being aware of Allah, being in awe of Allah, being in love with Allah, being appreciative of Allah and all the things that He has done and continues to do for us. Azad, where are you? Right, and we'll open the floor for any questions anybody has. Yes?
What is Taraweeh?
Taraweeh. Taraweeh is basically the night prayer that we pray in Ramadan after the last prayer, after Isha prayer. That there's 5 obligatory prayers. So the fourth obligatory prayer in the day is Maghrib, which is when we break the fast. After Maghrib, then there is Isha, the 5th prayer, and after Isha, anytime from that time until the dawn, you can pray Taraweeh. People pray in the masjid, in the mosque here. People pray together, so people can pray in the mosque together in the masjid with other people, or they can pray at home. So Taraweeh is that prayer that you pray especially in the month of Ramadan. Yes.
Can somebody actually can somebody only fast from food when they're fasting?
Is somebody only fast when they're fasting?
Can somebody only fast from food when they're fasting?
So, for children, the young people, you fast as much as you can. As much as you can. If you can fast for the whole day, that's wonderful. If you can fast for a little part of the day to practice to get yourself ready, sure, you should try to do that. If you can fast, at least from food, whatever you can try, you try your best. And inshallah, Allah will give you so much reward.
Any other questions? Go ahead, sister.
If you have non-Muslim family, they want to support you during Ramadan, let's say they want to fast with you, what do we tell them? Do we say, okay, hey, yeah, go ahead and fast with me, or do we say, oh no, here's some other things you can do to help support? What's recommended?
So, in these cases, there's no black and white thing is what you would do. What we understand that fasting, fasting is for those who are Muslims, right? But if they want to show solidarity and they want to fast with you, that's okay, but use that opportunity to encourage them about Islam, to teach them about Islam. And perhaps as they're fasting and their hearts become soft, perhaps they will find Islam appealing and, they might even accept Islam. So again, there's no I don't know of any black and white thing that you can't ask them to not fast, or you shouldn't, or you should. Again, just go back to the basics that if they fast, it's okay, but just encourage them about the bigger picture, which is, the monotheism, the believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yeah, so I do like that question, and there's been a lot of people who have fasted before, and I think experiencing it is really important. So if someone wants to fast, encourage them. Because Brother Haroon was saying, the month of Ramadan is not only to abstain from food, right? and to just, sort of like become hungry. This is not the process. It's a higher spiritual level, and you want them to experience this, because we will stay away from food. And to be honest with you, if you've never fasted, don't be afraid. You'll be okay. You'll be okay, because the body is capable of doing a lot more than Allah has instituted on us. Usually what happens is people that has never fasted, and you tell them, well, I don't eat or drink anything for an entire day, the first thing they think of, they're gonna die. They're going to die. Like, are you serious? You'll be okay, don't worry. There's many, many days that, and this actually only lasts, if you do it, do you want to try it? For the first 3 days, it'll be difficult, because you have to stay away from the coffee and the tea and all these addictions and stuff like that. You get it, and then the body adjusts, and then the spirituality starts to increase. So now, Brother Haroon is saying, in the morning, when you eat something in the morning, before you start fasting, it becomes less. When you're ready to break your fast, you start eating less, and your body just adjusts to it. So much so that in, let's say, for example, the last 10 days, right? You have no desire. Food is the last thing on your mind. And the spirituality starts to kick in. And and you start understanding the higher level of fasting, because, as Muslims, not only do we fast during the day, we're also spiritually active at night. We're praying, we're giving in charity, we are reading more of the Quran, we're trying to do more of the good, do our, what do you call these? The tasbeehs, or the remembrance of Allah. We're doing more of this. And then when you get to the end of Ramadan, and Ramadan is leaving, as a Muslim, you start to cry. Because you can't get there spiritually any other month except for this month. So you're upset that it is leaving us. So I definitely encourage you, to join and empathize with you as well. And like Brother Haroon is saying. And the brother over there, I think somebody has a question, sister.
Yeah, this question is, sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
This question is about travel during Ramadan. What if the person travels the whole month?
If the person is in the plane the entire month.
No, traveling.
I'm just kidding.
So, I mean, this, if you're traveling the whole month, meaning every day you have to go from one place to another, that it'll be difficult. But, of course, to the extent possible, if you can make your schedule such that you are in non-traveling mode, more in Ramadan, of course, that's the best thing to do, so you can focus. But if you have to, if you have no choice or you have to travel, then you just make it a place. Yep.
So, is there like a deadline for how long you can stay, like, when you're traveling, for how long it is until you can fast when you're traveling? Is there like a deadline?
No, there's no deadline. Like, it's just if you're traveling the whole month, you have trips every day of the month that you are. So you can just fast, make it the fast. But that's where you decide for yourself as to what would you like to do in the month of Ramadan. So for example, if you are in a place and you're going to be there for you're stationed in one place for a few days, then you should fast during that time. If you're not going to be actively on a plane or in a difficult situation, or if, let's say, you're taking a trip, but it's a short trip that really wouldn't affect you in any way. Keep in mind the whole essence of the allowance to not have to fast in traveling is so it doesn't become difficult for you. So for example, back in the day, at that time, they would travel on camels in the heat, right? So it was very difficult. And even these days, sometimes with traveling, if you're taking like a 10-hour flight across the Atlantic, you get dehydrated in the plane. It's hard. So, so in those cases, yes, it's okay if you don't fast, but to the extent possible, whenever you can, you should try, if you are stationed in one place, to fast. And then when you're on the move, let's say you have a 12-hour, bus ride or train ride or car ride, and you think it'll be difficult for you to fast, and you can make it up later.
When do women make up their fast?
So they can make it up anytime after Ramadan before the next Ramadan comes.
Oh.
So during those 11 months, and of course in the time when they're not in their monthly cycle, then they just make it up during that time. So
I have a trick. They usually in the cold months, the days are shorter.
So I think a lot of sisters, what they do is, for example, here these days, and which is completely okay, and Allah wants ease from you, that, for example, they'll wait for the daylight savings, and when the daylight savings kicks in, and the days are shorter in the month of, November, December, January, they'll fast during these times.
And the sister in the blue hijab.
Yes, I had a question similar to her. So if you do, like I have a friend who's interested in Islam, but he hasn't taken a Shahada, but he wants to participate in Ramadan. Is the reward only for true believers? So like he can still participate, but technically like it's not.
So, good question. So, I'll go to the point where, inshallah, one day he will accept Islam, right? So, when you accept Islam, what happens? All the deeds that you did in the past that were not good, they get wiped away. And all the good deeds you did, they carry over. In the mercy of Allah.
Yeah.
So you can anticipate, you can hope and pray from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the reward, that He rewards him at His, according to His will, His mercy, for the good that he does during the month of Ramadan, whether it is giving charity, fasting, whatever he does. But the fasting is for Muslims.
Questions? Anything else? Okay. We have a giveaway?
Yep.
Okay, give me one second.
Ticket start, get your tickets.
Tickets. Don't say hi on the